What about in terms of umpire contact, Jay, which has been a very big topic this week, the AFL's crackdown, and, well, Matt Rowell, he didn't change anything about his centre bounce positioning today.
Well, it's going to continue to be a big story, isn't it? Because the Gold Coast are on a crash course with the AFL over this. Matt Rowell, there was so many close shaves. Watch Matt Rowell here brushing the umpire as he goes past. As you say, he says he's not going to change anything. The AFL wants the players to change their behaviour on this front. So it's red rag to a bull. They said, Kingy, they don't really want to suspend players for this. But if they're going to do it a bit brazenly and not modify their behaviour, then maybe they have to.
I reckon it's the second middle finger for the year for Damien Hardwick. The first one was at the umpiring department. This one's straight at Andrew Dillon. And I don't think he'll take it well. I think that if there is contact to be made in the next few weeks, that he will get a suspension because they've warned and they've ignored. It's a pretty serious thing to be doing in the back half of the year.
What do you think?
Well, I think he's
watching your reaction.
No, I was looking at Setterfield. I think he looked after him a couple of times there, Setterfield, and actually got him out of the way. So therefore, you're right. He's working the fine line.
Jay, we know there's been a crackdown by the AFL on this careless umpire contact. So for those catching up, new rules players who were cited 4 times in a 2-year period will be referred directly to the tribunal and possibly suspended. Matt Rowell is one of those players who's been cited a few times. What did you see today?
Well, he's essentially on his last strike. One more bump into an umpire could land him as a suspension or certainly a heavier fine. So this was fascinating to watch today. Him completely run the gauntlet with the umpires. He comes so close to them. So many close shaves throughout this game. I mean, this one here, he almost brushes the umpire's top as he slips past his bicep. So what he's sort of saying, Gold Coast is running the gauntlet on this one, Jono. So the AFL has said, change your behaviour, give them more space, be more mindful. And Matt Rowell just said, no, I'm just going to keep doing what I've always done, and that is hunt the footy in the shoebox. However, I mean, it just feels like it's a matter of time before this collision does happen.
Well, but you look at that second one, right, and we talk about throwing the ball up. Damien Hardwick made a point of it during the week. You even look at the umpire's eyes, they go a little bit left because that's where the bounce went to. So Matt Rowell's looking there as well, and he's trying to shift to get back into his spot in the contest. So I certainly agree with the fact that the bounce has a little bit to do with it as well. Umpire coming out a little bit crooked on that occasion. He's not going to go straight every time. But look at the umpire's eyes there, right? So Rowell's thinking the same thing. I've got to get back over to this contest. Just misses. Setterfield gives him a little nudge on that occasion. So unless there's a blatant rule, you cannot set up on the side that the umpire's walking back.
Can't do that.
You can, but you can't do. You're spot on. You can't do that. Yeah.
Well, Matt Rowell was asked about it post-game with Sarah Jones, and then the coach, Damien Hardwick, was also asked about it in his post-match press conference.
The umpire contact that's been spoken about during the week and the fact that you're up there with a few against your name, did you modify your game style at all? Because it did look like at centre bounce you were still lining up reasonably close to the umpire and you did have a couple of close calls.
Yeah, no, I haven't changed anything.
Did Dimmer talk to you about it and modifying it at all, or you're just going to keep doing you?
Yeah, no, I just keep doing me.
Yeah, look, he'll be mindful of it, but the thing is, as soon as that ball goes, he's a see ball, get ball player. It is a challenge, and the ball moves. I think I spoke it during the week. If the ball moves, slightly deviates off the bounce, he's not thinking where the umpire is. He's thinking how I can get to the contest, and there is going to be incidental contact. And I think the AFL know that. I know that we've got to protect the umpires, but I think we've also got to be smart. Let's look at some other things that we can do to take it away, from that situation in the first place. Because we don't want to have the conversation as we're having now about the very best players being a possibility of missing a game.
So the Suns aren't backing down. What are your thoughts on how this all played out today?
Well, if Matt and Damien don't change, the AFL will make them change. And it'll be a suspension because that's what the AFL's put in place. They haven't done this because they're just uncomfortable with something. They're stamping it out. If you've done this 4 times in 2 years, you're on a knife's edge. Now, we spoke with Andrew Dillon later in the week, and he said, we're reluctant to suspend straight away. But when a club's just taking their own course and ignoring these rules and this advice, Jay, I think the AFL have no other way through this but to suspend if Matt Rowell is that player.
And you'd welcome that?
Well, I have empathy for it. I don't know if I'll welcome it. I don't understand the clearance situation, full stop. You know more about it than me, how difficult it is to miss the umpire.
Well, it is in that situation because You're right, because you see that last example is the perfect one of where the eyes of everyone are going, and they're purely focused on the ball. Yes, you've got an awareness of where the umpire is coming out, no question about that. And do you want to touch the umpire? Absolutely not. You don't want to touch him at all. But as they're right, it is incidental contact, and there has been an increase in it, so you can see the awareness coming from the AFL in regards to that. But it's not a suspension. For me, we either change it up to throw it up and we get rid of the bounce completely, because a suspension for that I think is just a little bit too harsh.
So you're more siding with Damien Hardwick and the Gold Coast Suns on this.
Well, I am, because the ball doesn't go straight up. So if we want the ball to go straight up, then we have to throw it. Otherwise, there will be continued incidental contact. We're looking at centre bounce solely here, and I know some contact happens around the ground in ball ups when we actually do throw it straight up. But when you go to a ball up, there's a lot more numbers around that contest as well. There's not just the 6 mids and the 2 rucks. There's actually, a congestion of half forwards coming in and more players around the ball up. So there's more likely that you will make contact with an umpire in that scenario. But centre bounce is different.
But they've made this change, Jono, knowing all this information.
Yeah.
They've already been through all this.
I agree.
And the umpires are still getting hit because players are setting up behind the umpire and using him as a screen. So they know all this.
Yeah, no, and they've used him as a screen for quite some time. I'm not saying that's not part of what part of the mindset is at particular times. But if we suspend them this year and we change the rule next year, is it harsh on a player this year? Like, if we're going to keep the bounce forever, then the players will have to adjust. But if we're not going to keep the bounce and a decision's made on that, then you can't suspend them in the last 8 weeks of the season if we're going to change that potentially next year to help the umpire in this scenario.
I think the AFL's asking to take half a step to your left or right. Just be a little bit more careful. I think that's what they're after.
Yeah, but you take half a step there. Your opponent, Setterfield's going with Rao, regardless. He's not going to leave him either side of the umpire and they go in like this.
But fines haven't worked.
No.
So the only course of action from there is suspension. So you just can't keep fining Matt Rowell. I mean, this is round 15 when we saw it happen regularly. And the players, I didn't mean to do it, didn't do this. But we've got a problem.
So what happens actually on this is
feet clash there.
So that's actually. So who got done for? Did Rao get done for that or Toby Green? Because it's Toby Green's foot that clips.
But they're pushing him
the
into
umpire
the
there.
umpire.
Yeah, they're holding. Yeah.
So they're trying to get those players out of there.
Yeah.
Which is different and difficult.
Yeah.
But we have to do something.
But you're right. So that's on the coaches and the midfield group to make a big change to the way that they set up at centre bounce. That you are not allowed. When we spoke about this earlier, which is hard to do, you're not allowed in the zone that the umpire's coming out. You've got to start outside of it, and you're not allowed to move into that space until he's clear.
I think he's going to have to be a little bit more careful.
Yeah. What about the Nate Caddy incident too?
This one was a little bit different. So Nate Caddy makes heavy contact with an umpire in general play. Now, on this occasion, I have a lot of empathy for a Nate Caddy because it's actually the umpire who sort of steps off to his line or move to his left as Nate Caddy is watching the play. So you hear the big whack. Now, Brad Scott afterwards is quite critical of this because Nate sort of takes 10 or 15 minutes to gather himself. He's sort of winded there for a period. So Scotty was quite critical. I'd be shocked if he gets a fine for that one because, as you can see, Caddy's watching the play and the umpire moves a bit surprisingly to his left. He should be okay for that, right?
Should be.
Yes.
Brad has history in this sort of action, I can say.
What do you mean? Is he lining you up?
I know he wasn't happy with this. He had a chat after the game, didn't he?
That's a replay we do need.